My doctor just prescribed me this medication that will help me with my insulin resistance. They say this might be what really helps me lose weight. It just came in the mail. I'm on a winning streak!
What's up guys, Derek, moreplates.com. Today we're going to be talking about Charlie Rocket again. We just did a video about him the other day for his weight loss journey. I mentioned in this one how much weight he has fluctuated over the years and his prevailing issues with weight management. Basically, he used to be pretty fucking lean, had a very crazy weight loss transformation, and then ended up regaining a bunch of weight and is now in a state of pre-diabetes, insulin resistance, as well as leptin resistance, among like numerous other, subpar metabolic dysfunction related states. So here he is at 235 pounds 7 days ago now. And basically he's been dieting for months at this point, doing the exercise, putting the work in, supposedly adhering to the perfect diet. He has a fucking boatload of pharmaceuticals. Like in this video, if you actually go through it, I can't fast forward evidently, but there's a point in the video where he shows his table, and on his table, it shows fucking 20, maybe not 20, 15 pharmaceutical bottles from compounding pharmacies of different medications.
Cardio within the fat burning range. Removed coffee. Meditation. Lifted weights. Blood test. DNA test. I'm at a calorie deficit. Taking all the vitamins.
Supplements. Look at this shit.
And supplements instructed by the human biologist. Let's see how my sleep was last night. We're at 91. That's the highest I've ever been. Let's pray this works.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So it looks like about 16 pharmaceutical bottles. This looks like just a straight edge supplement over the counter. But these are all seemingly prescription bottles for shit, and some of these might have fucking hormones in them, like actual testosterone. There might be some capsuled adrenal supplements. There might be thyroid medications in here. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of shit in here. I wouldn't be surprised if he's tried fucking phentermine, all the goddamn shit in the book, because he is indeed on the most nuclear now medication of all, or at least one of the heavy nuke bombs of weight management, and that is semaglutide, which we're going to be getting into now. He posted this yesterday, or at least at the time of recording this.
My doctor just prescribed me this medication that will help me with my insulin resistance. They say this might be what really helps me lose weight. It just came in the mail. I'm on a winning streak!
So he says this might help me with my insulin resistance. New medication just came in the mail too. This is going to help me big with my insulin resistance. You can see here on the side, it says semaglutide, 1 milligram per milliliter injection. Now this is a compounding pharmacy multi-dose vial. This is not the brand name Ozempic pens that you would otherwise get via Novo Nordisk, the pharmaceutical company that produces it, as well as liraglutide. And then there is also Wegovy, which is the 2.4 milligram dose approved for obesity management. So this is like a makeshift prescription by his overseeing physician for weight management using a dose that is, well, I guess technically it's actually used for diabetics, never mind, at 1 milligram. So this is, I imagine, like a 2 birds, 1 stone kind of thing though. So basically the dose for diabetics is around 1 milligram per week, from what I recall, and the dose for heavy duty obesity management is upwards of 2.4 milligrams per week, which is fucking puke city territory. I know a lot of people who get really nauseous and shitty feeling off just 1 milligram a week. 2.4 is I can't even imagine it. So what is this stuff exactly? It is a GLP-1 agonist, and we've talked about it many times on the channel before actually. If you go to my channel and you sort by GLP-1, and by the way, if you want to see the first video I did, this is the real reason why Charlie Rocket can't lose weight. Broke it all down. You can see his transformation from back in November. He's basically just gained weight. He claims he's eating only 2,200 calories. He's had elaborate blood work, even assessed his gene polymorphisms, assessed his methylation impairments. Everything has been accounted for that is relevant at this point. And now he is on the most hardcore battery of medications essentially, above and beyond like potentially HRT, an intense training schedule, a diet model that is supposedly like really fucking dialed in. He's removed coffee, he's on a vegan diet, he's done keto, he's done this, he's done that. Which at the end of the day, it's ultimately calories in, calories out, as we know. But what affects that calories in, calories out equation? Because in here, he mentions how they found out that he might be leptin resistant. So, you know, you're talking about insulin resistance, methylation impairments, all these things that he talks about in the video, which we can probably go through really quick in the video here, just so we get, if you haven't seen that one, you get a quick idea of what exactly he is dealing with. Let's see, so this is me just doing the intro.
Responsibilities before my dream.
Okay, so a big motivational video there.
Doing the same thing over and over, but not getting results. But if I can go a month and not lose any weight, could I go 20 weeks?
You did the 75 hard, didn't lose any weight. Fight Camp Thailand, didn't really lose any weight.
We did an Ironman in New Zealand, fighting across America.
You watched me gain 40 pounds in the midst of running 3 marathons. The biggest peace of mind I could ever have is to just know what the root problem I have is.
So anyway, they go on to tell him he has, you know, insulin resistance, he's pre-diabetic, you know, hormone imbalances, methylation impairments, you know, a lot of stuff that, you know, is going to be out of fucking whack when you are this metabolically unhealthy, to be honest. And some of it is, you know, eggs each other on, you know, they're both, you know, complementary to each other ultimately at the end of the day. But if you have like the worst gene methylation impairment ever, which I have, is that going to prevent you from like burning fat necessarily? Like, supplementing with methyl donors, is that going to be the fucking make or break, or whether you in a calorie deficit makes a difference or not? Like, no, it's not. At the end of the day, this guy is basically, once he's dialed everything in from a hormone standpoint, if he's not severely hypothyroid, if he's not, you know, all these different things, he is not accounting for the calories correctly. He is not factoring in all the oils he's using. He's not factoring in the fucking random supplements he's drinking. They have calories. Just because you have a pre-workout has, you know, certain aminos in it or something, it's not like those are devoid of fucking calories. Like, there's a lot of different things that are clearly not being accounted for when he says, I'm in a calorie deficit. Like, no, if you were factually in a calorie deficit, you would be losing weight, because that's how the law of thermodynamics works. Now, again, leptin resistance though, a new whole thing that is thrown into the equation that supposedly explains his issue. You know, these doctors that he's deferring to, he has, you know, all these like high fucking caliber, you know, super insightful guys that are breaking down his, you know, gene issues, his this, his that, and they, you know, top it all off by saying he's leptin resistant, and that's the answer to everything. So what is that exactly? That's what we're gonna be, and then there was even somebody commenting like, you guys have not factored this in on the comment section of the last video. I'm pretty sure I said it in this video, actually. I'm 100% certain I said leptin resistance at one point. But anyways, getting into leptin resistance and semaglutide, the nuclear approach to weight management. You know, you have these standard therapies like, you know, phentermine is basically like a heavy duty stimulant. It's like comparable to using Adderall to crush your appetite. Very effective. Wouldn't be surprised if he's tried that. In addition, you know, leptin modulation through, like, ultimately it comes down to appetite modulation. These medications are not necessarily healthy things to be on. So despite him saying like, this medication is supposed to help with my insulin resistance, it helps with your insulin resistance indirectly by making you lose weight because you are more satiated and not eating. It's not actually helping your insulin resistance directly, it's indirect. It is actually increasing your insulin levels and relieving stress off your pancreas, and you're going to be eating less as a result, and concurrently you're going to be improving your biomarkers, your metabolic parameters. You're gonna be losing fat at a much faster pace simply because of calorie restriction at the end of the day. So leptin resistance, if you have a shit ton of leptin circulating and it is trying to tell your brain that you are satisfied, like, this is a hormone that regulates satiety, like ghrelin, leptin. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone, essentially, basically tells you that you're hungry. You can manually modulate this with ghrelin receptor agonist, MK677. Any of you guys who have used that, or GHRP6, know that when you pin GHRP6 or you toss down a capsule of MK677, you can expect to eat your fucking house, even if you weren't hungry before. That's what a artificially stimulating the ghrelin receptor can do. Now, on the opposite side of the coin, if you have leptin resistance induced by you know, inflammatory lifestyle, being overweight, having a significantly heightened level of leptin for a long period of time, when you get fatter, your body produces more leptin. It's like a result, it's like a self-regulating negative feedback system, because when you get fatter, your body produces more leptin from the fat cells, which then tells your brain, we have enough stored energy, so stop being so fucking hungry. And then you know, just naturally stop eating as much because you're not as hungry because you've overate to get to that point. And then as you get leaner, as you guys have experienced, I am quite sure anybody who's dieted on this channel can attest to the fact that your cravings start to go up. You start to get hungrier when you're in a calorie deficit. When you get leaner, when you get to single digit body fat, your cravings are astronomically higher than they were at, you know, 15+%. You normally are just chilling at 15+%. Oftentimes, if you're, you know, you're a healthy individual who's active and has a good diet model and everything, and isn't abusing the fuck out of, you know, doesn't have random issues like this. But ultimately, if you are dieting into the single digits, you know, it's very unlikely that your cravings are not significantly higher than they would have been otherwise at, you know, 15+% when you were weighing more and had more fat on your body, because you have less leptin signaling to your brain that you're satisfied and you have a satisfactory amount of energy stores. Because at the end of the day, you really don't have a satisfactory amount of energy stores. You were literally embarking on a quest to get to inhuman levels of body fat percentage just for the sake of aesthetic appeal. And it's not exactly conducive to overall health. So when you get to single digits, you know, you're so lacking in leptin signaling, your body then tries to stimulate you to eat more to get you back to homeostasis. That's what this whole self-regulating negative feedback system is. And it's quite ingenious how your body works like that to keep you at the healthiest state possible without you needing to manually modulate anything. It just makes you hungry or doesn't make you hungry accordingly. Now, again, can this get dysfunctional though by abusing the fuck out of food and having a poor lifestyle, poor sleep habits, etc.? Yes, it can. And that's where you get individuals that get into this leptin resistance territory, whereby even though you have a shit ton of leptin because you're overweight and you're fat and it's telling your brain that you're satisfied, just like insulin resistance, it's not, the signal is not necessarily transcribing the effects and causing the gene expression that needs to occur consequent to the E receptor activation. So it'd be like, I don't know, like hypothetically think of taking a anabolic steroid and it binds to the receptor, but it just like doesn't do anything. Like, I don't know, could that be androgen receptor resistance? You know, like I'm sure there is some sort of resistance concept in all receptors in the body, or at least, you know, most of them. Just think of, I don't know, insulin resistance, probably a more relevant concept realistically. When your body has a copious amount of insulin, but the actual actions of that hormone cannot be carried out because your body is resistant to its action at the receptor level because it has been like essentially in a state of, like it's in a state of overabundance essentially, and your body's just dysfunctional from a signaling aspect. So if your leptin ghrelin signaling is all fucked up and dysregulated, and you have all this leptin being produced, but it's not actually working at the receptor level, it doesn't matter how much circulating hormone you have if it's not actually able to transcribe its effects in tissues in the body after receptor activation. So, you know, ultimately, and this is like, here's another concept that's similar. You guys could probably, you know, get, you know, easier to wrap your head around too. Selective estrogen receptor modulators, SERMs. When you use something like Novadex or raloxifene, these don't necessarily, like if anything, they increase your circulating levels of estrogen, but then, you know, paradoxically, they're anti-estrogenic. Reason being is because they literally occupy estrogen receptors, but they don't actually transcribe estrogenic effects. They're kind of like a mute signal. So this kind of a thing, it's probably not direct. It's probably, maybe that's not the best example, but either way, receptor activation is not being carried out by the hormone that would otherwise dictate satiety signaling. So I was trying to give an example of, okay, the example I was trying to make, and I kind of like in my head went on a tangent on something else. If you used a SERM like Novadex or raloxifene, your circulating levels on blood work would actually show potentially an elevation in estradiol levels, despite the fact that you have anti-estrogenic activity going, because it doesn't matter how much of a hormone is in your body if it can't actually do what it's supposed to do once it actually binds to a receptor. So that's what I was trying to say. I don't know why I just like fucking blanked in my head while I was talking about it. So anyways, leptin is not actually able to do what it's supposed to do, even though you have copious amounts of it. So you're leptin resistant. So what do you do and what the fuck happens? Well, is it a matter of the law of thermodynamics is out the window now? No, it's not. Rather, it's that your satiety signaling sucks now, unfortunately. So now you're in a state where your body's actually telling you need to eat more food, even when you're already obese and have more than enough substrate for fueling activities readily available. So that's where, you know, ultimately you gotta fucking just dial your shit in. Like there are ways to modulate these things. Like I remember we did the video on the guy with, I forget what the disease was, but basically he was like perpetually shredded even though he ate a shit ton of calories. What was it? It was like 4,500 calories a day and he was still shredded. What is it? 4,500. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it. I forget what it was called off the top of my head, but basically this guy was eating like so much fucking food and he couldn't get fat, and it turned out he was just developing like fat around his organs essentially because his body could not process what he was eating correctly, and he was like perpetually starving, but he couldn't gain fat like no matter what he ate. Like he was eating like ridiculous amounts of food. So leptin resistance, on the other hand, you can't burn. Like you ultimately have a dysregulated, relationship with food, and your signaling mechanisms are fucked up to a point that you're going to be hungry even when you otherwise should be not hungry at all. You should be, like fucking nauseated by the thought of passing 3,000 calories of clean food. So this guy, Charlie, having the leptin resistance, the insulin resistance, being, pre-diabetic, etc., he's probably on the battery of medications like we already mentioned. And now with the semaglutide addition, is that going to help him? Yeah, it definitely will. It's a very, very potent GLP-1 agonist. It is actually based off of the initial technology designed through Novo Nordisk's liraglutide, which is a short-acting GLP-1 agonist, which was the premier GLP-1 agonist for a while, as far as I know. There was other ones that are longer-acting, like dulaglutide, but they are not without side effects. They have their issues, and some people end up getting like nauseated and like fucking puking randomly when they take it. So again, it's almost like satisfying you to the point of being like overly satiated and just like fucking nauseated essentially. This is something that semaglutide does, but it's longer acting. So liraglutide is manipulated to be a longer acting GLP-1 agonist, which created semaglutide, which has become the premier GLP-1 agonist with the best clinical endpoints being met in studies, as well as a relatively good safety profile. So it's not as problematic and the most potent overall of all of the GLP-1 agonists, and it's long acting, which is nice because with injectables, adhering to a daily pinning schedule of something like liraglutide, not as ideal as a once a week shot. However, this shit's fucking potent, and if you pin it once a week and you don't respond well, it's in your system for a while. So anyways, if you want to learn more about GLP-1 agonists, by the way, I definitely recommend checking out these videos. I think Steve was probably the first person to talk about GLP-1 agonists in the bodybuilding community, and shortly thereafter, I was discussing it as well. Here we had 33-pound average weight loss among people in this trial who were using this obesity drug synthesized from Gila monster venom. It's kind of a cool story how this shit came to be to begin with, but 33 pounds of average weight loss among the patients using this stuff is huge, considering these are individuals that essentially had a lack of willpower to not cheat on their diet, or individuals with leptin resistance and dysregulated satiety signaling, whereby they just can't help but eat because they're perpetually hungry from a like neurochemical signaling level. So anyways, it's a very, very potent drug, very, very good at what it does. Losing over 50 pounds with GLP-1 agonists. Like in this video, I probably went over another study. Like some of the studies are fucking insane, how much weight is lost with this stuff simply by introducing this medication into individuals who were otherwise like diabetic, like really fat motherfuckers who take this stuff and end up just like not wanting to eat as much and just naturally reduce the quantities that they eat. So with Charlie, what is this going to do? Is it going to improve his results? Yeah, it should. It should make him far less likely to deviate from the plan. However, if his plan is subpar to begin with, it's not going to make a difference. So that's where he has to really go back and fucking count how many calories he's eating. That means literally every butthole lick, every fucking EAA drink, literally everything that goes into your goddamn gullet. You need to count down on MyFitnessPal or some sort of tracker every fucking calorie, bro. Pieces, like little bits of oil that you're cooking with, the fucking ketchup you dip your whatever in, everything, dude. Just because you're eating clean, it can be very easy to fuck up a clean diet by the way the food is prepared. Doing chicken thighs versus chicken breasts, doing, red meat versus white, doing, the fucking straight up ground beef instead of extra lean fucking ground bison. Like these are things that could easily make or break a diet model for cutting, even though the quantity of food looks the exact fucking same and is just as potentially just as satisfying. So for him, he is not consuming 2,200 calories a day, in my opinion. He claims he's burning 2,900 to 3,800. You know, how is he quantifying that? Is it with, you know, something on your fucking wrist that is not exactly, you know, the most trustable, you know, device ever? I don't know, but ultimately we know he is not in a deficit, or else he'd be losing weight. The fact he's gaining weight means he's in a surplus. So the semaglutide, will it help? It'll definitely help suppress his appetite quite significantly. Like, you know, people who have been, you know, otherwise hopeless about trying to follow a diet model end up seamlessly following it after introducing this drug simply through GLP-1 agonism. And it's interesting because, you know, it's paradoxical to what a lot of people would say about, you know, insulin resistance caused by, you know, carbohydrates, and this is why you need to be on a keto diet. And it sounds like he's been fed a lot of this information. He did a fucking vegan keto diet before. It's like this stuff, it works through increasing insulin levels in the body too. So it's like totally paradoxical to what they've been saying to him probably. In addition, the drug is potent even at dosages lower than the one prescribed for obesity management. So if he's able to get away with like a diabetic management dose, and then he can titrate up if needed, but there is a lot of leeway with this drug. And even people with really bad appetite issues find a lot of relief with it. So it should be interesting to see what the update is. But what they need to do is stop framing this like this is the medication that's going to help you with your insulin resistance, and frame it in a way like this is the drug that's going to help your insulin sensitivity consequent or subsequent to you actually adhering to a calorie deficit. This drug, all it will help you do, it's not gonna burn fat, it's not gonna burn fucking calories for you, it's going to make you less likely to deviate and fuck up the diet. So it's gonna make you less likely to binge, less likely to overeat, less likely to fuck up the diet. And as a result of that, that's where the weight loss comes. That's where the insulin resistance improves. That's where the leptin resistance improves. This kind of stuff comes from appetite management. And if you need to manually do that through medical interventions like this shit, you know, like that's why it's there, you know, that it's sure, see how it works, but ultimately do not attest the improvements to this medication necessarily and say like, this is what made it happen. Like, no, like the weight loss is what's going to make it happen. So let's just make that clear. Like ultimately, if you could stick to your calorie deficit without this medication, the exact same improvements and fucking stuff and metrics would occur. So anyways, that is the video. Semaglutide is a drug of high interest to me in, you know, the way it's being applied for obesity management, the way it works, and how it's not a hyper aggressive stimulant that puts you in sympathetic overdrive and cranks your fucking heart. So to me, this is a drug that is heavily overlooked by bodybuilders because they simply do not know it exists, and people who are needing to diet who otherwise do not have the willpower and or have the, you know, neurochemical signaling issues that would make it much more difficult for them than the average person. So anyways, you know, does he need this shit? No, he could just eat in a deficit and the same thing would happen. But I mean, if it helps him stay in the deficit, fucking golden. That's it. So anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. All the comments help the algorithm. They're much appreciated. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplates.8, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below, my preventative medicine and hormone replacement therapy platform, where we connect you with high quality doctors that represent the same cutting edge literature that I try to put out on my channel, including around GLP-1 agonists. This is something we're very familiar with our patients. We have a lot of individuals, I believe, even on semaglutide right now. It is the primary deferred to GLP-1 agonist, and it is very fucking effective. I have firsthand experience with it myself, as well as a lot of individuals through our through Merrick Health that you know, rave about its ability to curb appetite and improve biomarkers indirectly through their appetite suppression. So it's very good at what it does. As well, if you want access to high quality lab work, you can check that out at Merrick Health self-service labs. Get blood panels that are pre-designed by our team that have been vetted and audited by me personally, with high sensitivity assay testing for hormones, with biomarkers that are otherwise, frankly, completely overlooked or, you know, not even known they exist by a lot of people that are, you know, touting their, I don't know, you know, panels as the go-to options. Like a lot of private blood work facilitating companies, like simply just don't even have these markers in their panels. Things like alpha fetoprotein for cancer risk, things like LP little a for cardiovascular disease risk. these are things that we highlight with high importance in our panels. And when you get a comprehensive panel with us, you know that we are covering your basis, even with the more, insightful and obscure biomarkers that can be very, very useful to create a more clear picture about your current state of health. So if you want to get optimized and you want to see, where you're at, as well as get advice on interventions from a lifestyle perspective, dietary manipulations perspective, sleep hygiene perspective, supplementation, and pharmacology if warranted, you can check out Merrick Health, video description below. As well, Gorilla Mind, nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode pre-workout formulas I designed myself from scratch from a recommended diet model for gaining muscle and sports performance, whilst being mindful of gut health and micronutrient intake. Clothing company that sponsors me, anything else that's in the video description. It helps support me. It's much appreciated when you guys use my links, codes, etc. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.